Hello, I'm Dave Holmquist, State President for AARP in Nebraska, and I want to welcome everyone to this virtual celebration of the 2020 AARP Andrus Award. The Andrus Award is the most prestigious volunteer award given by AARP. I'm always inspired by the volunteers in our community and the things they can achieve. If this year has taught us anything, it's that we have to adapt, and we can do so. We have all had to adapt very quickly to this new COVID world of social distancing, face masks, online school, and Zoom meetings. It's been challenging, it's been scary, but what has resonated with me the most, and what I will remember about 2020, is the humanity and caring that I have seen since the pandemic began. People have volunteered to pick up food and prescriptions for their elderly neighbors. Some have donated plasma and blood. Others have found ways to support struggling local businesses. And we've seen people risk their own health and safety in an effort to help others, like those fighting the forest fires on the West Coast and in the middle part of the country, and fighting the hurricanes on our southern borders. From small acts of kindness to huge volunteer initiatives, Nebraska has come together most when we've never before been more isolated. As many of you know, for our safety and yours, all of our AARP in-person events from mid-March through the end of this year were canceled due to COVID-19. This has created a large set of challenges for us all. The work of these wonderful individuals that I'm going to introduce you to honor AARP's mission to serve and not be served was coined by motto, to serve and not be served, was coined by our founder, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, more than 60 years ago. And it is certainly relevant today. In whatever way you choose to help others, you're making a difference, and AARP applauds you. It is my privilege to present AARP's most prestigious award, which is the AARP Andrus Award for Community Service. I want to tell you about the founder of AARP just for a little bit. Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus was the founder. It was a Saturday morning when Ethel Percy Andrus received a phone call from a shopkeeper 30 miles outside of Los Angeles. The shopkeeper noticed a newspaper article that Dr. Andrus had been appointed to the California Retired Teachers Association, and she was supposed to check on retired teachers' welfare. He asked her to check up on his neighbor who was in need of eyeglasses, food, and teeth, and he provided the woman's address. She drove out there, and she couldn't find her in the neighborhood. As she was getting ready to leave, a neighbor said, "You must be looking for the woman who lives in the back." And the woman who was living in the back was living in a chicken coop. She had lost her life savings and was living on $40 a month from her teacher's retirement that she had decided bravely to make do. That chance meeting led to AARP's collective purpose: to help aging people realize life's possibilities. Dr. Andrus focused on developing solutions, widening opportunities, and upending negative aging stereotypes. She engaged millions of AARP members to serve and not be served, volunteering in what she called the Great Army of Service, and exercising civic responsibilities. AARP gives older persons a collective voice to advocate. They worked on things like pension reform, affordable health care, improved housing, and an end to age discrimination. Dr. Andrus was a champion for all generations, and she believed, as we believe today, that all generations in America must be connected by a strong commitment to values, community, and service. The Andrus Award pays tribute to special volunteers whose work and achievements reflect AARP's vision of bringing lifetimes of experience and leadership to serve all generations. The Andrus Award recipient must enrich their community in ways that are consistent with AARP's purpose, vision, and commitment to volunteer service. In addition, they must, by their example, provide inspiration for others to volunteer. Before introducing you to the people who've won this year's award, I'd like to first introduce you to our 2019 Andrus Award winner, Suzan DeCamp. Welcome, Suzan.
Thank you, Dave.
You're entirely good to see you. wonderful to see you on the screen, not in person as we know. Please tell us a little bit about your volunteering experiences.
Well, I was very humbled and honored to be the recipient of last year's Andrus Award. I was nominated by a fellow AARP volunteer who wanted to recognize me for the work that I've done within the AARP organization and also for other volunteer work that I've done throughout the years. I guess I'll start with what I've done with AARP organization. I serve as a lead volunteer for the state and federal advocacy group, where I meet with the legislative senators and the Nebraska members of Congress and attend debates, teletown halls, testify at legislative hearings on topics that are that affect older seniors and their families, such as health care, drug prices, affordable housing and transportation, caregiving, long-term care. And I also help recruit other volunteers to serve on the advocacy group. And I have coordinated and led voter engagement activities such as informational presentations and parades. I've also worked with the multicultural outreach in the Omaha Metro, where I have organized and participated and helped find volunteers to work specifically in the African American community. I've also helped organize and am the lead volunteer for the West Omaha Community Action Team, which is a group of about 29 volunteers who plan activities that are educational, health awareness, and just fun and leisure experiences for seniors, and these are open to the public. I have also participated with the AARP Fraud Watch, Caregiving, and Livable Communities programs. Prior to moving, yes?
I was just going to say, thank you for all of the work you do for AARP. And I was also going to mention that I know you've been involved in the Nebraska Association of Community Theaters, as well as having been a school board member in St. Paul and having served on the State School Board Association. Am I right?
Yes. Yes, prior to moving to the Omaha area just a few years ago, I lived in St. Paul, Nebraska, where my husband and I raised our 2 children. So that's where most of my other volunteer commitments have been through the years, such as you mentioned, Dave. I served on my local school board for 20 years. I also served on the board of directors for the Nebraska Association of School Boards, and where I represented Nebraska as an officer of the association at various state, regional, and national events and on committees. Then I also served on the St. Paul Board or Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, where I was involved in activities such as establishing the internet service there in the community. And I also was on a team that created the interlocal school city library and served on the library board for several years. I was also involved in creating, organizing, and serving on the board of my local community theater there in St. Paul, and served on the board of the Nebraska Association of Community Theaters. I was a Boy Scout leader, Girl Scout leader on the Board of Education at my local church, and a Sunday school teacher, and then served on other various local and state committees and foundations.
Susan, thank you. We want to let people know that AARP Nebraska awards Andrus winners a $2,500 cash award that is to be donated to, on their behalf, to a nonprofit organization of their choice. Can you tell us just a brief little bit about the organization you chose to receive that donation in 2019?
Sure. I was really excited to discover that along with the award came a donation to a nonprofit organization of my choice. And I was extremely happy to choose COPE, which is the Christian outreach program of Elkhorn, as the recipient of that donation. COPE is a non-denominational organization of individuals and 12 area churches who help those who have been affected and experienced financial hardship. COPE fights hunger and poverty and works to prevent homelessness in the western Douglas County area. They operate food pantries. They provide clothing, furniture, household goods, as well as financial assistance for paying utility bills and rent. And they also provide educational and job opportunities to those in need, which allows them to live with dignity during difficult times. I know last year, COPE helped many people who were victims of the terrible flooding that Nebraska experienced. And this year, of course, they are helping serve people who've been affected by the COVID pandemic. So I'm truly grateful to AARP for providing that generous donation to help the COPE organization with their work.
That's terrific, Susan. Thank you. Now, just briefly, why is it important for you to volunteer? Why do you find it so fulfilling?
I guess I'm a firm believer in civic responsibility, in striving to help others and help make our communities, state, nation, and even world a better place in which to live. But I think that most volunteers agree that volunteering has allowed them to receive way more than what they put in to their volunteering work. I know my life has been greatly enriched by my involvement with volunteer work. It's allowed me to feel connected to others, given me a purpose and a sense of belonging. It's given me a great opportunity to meet so many interesting people and make some lifelong friendships. It's helped me grow and learn about my surroundings, different organizations, institutions, and cultures. And I truly believe that it's given me the opportunity to experience and live life to the fullest. And in closing, I would just like to encourage everyone to think about nominating someone you may know who would be deserving of this award. It's given every year. And I know there are many wonderful volunteers out there who give so much of their time and talents to help others and improve their communities. And the Andrus Award is a wonderful way in which to honor them.
Susan, thank you so much for your words of encouragement. And again, congratulations on receiving the award last year.
Thanks, Dave. It's been great being with you.
Thank you. That brings us to the announcement of the winners of the 2020 AARP Andrus Award for Nebraska. This year's honorees are Stan and LaNeta Carlock from Haigler, Nebraska.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, good morning. Congratulations, Stan and LaNeta, on behalf of AARP Nebraska.
Thanks, Dave. To steal Susan's line, we are incredibly humbled and grateful to even be considered, let alone receive the award. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm going to give you a brief update or background on the award application that was presented on behalf of Stan and LaNeta. They were nominated by Jerry Pascal and Betty Schuler-Weingarten for their work in Haigler, Nebraska, based on what has been described as their mission. That mission is to give back and support the community and its people in so many ways. These include restoration of buildings, applying for grants to fund community projects, new playground equipment, new restrooms in the park. There might be restaurants too, I'm not sure. Building of the ambulance building, posting welcome to Haigler signs, street flags, installation of Haigler town siren, creating a Haigler museum, and the list continues on. Stan and LaNeta, can you tell us a little bit about the volunteer work you've been doing in Haigler?
Sure will, Dave. Just a little bit to begin with on our philosophy. LaNeta and I have been back in Haigler, our hometown, 25 years. And we have been lucky, very lucky and very fortunate. And we have thought that over as to exactly why. And we realize clearly that it's because of incredible people who have helped us and reached out and given us a helping hand along the road of life. And so here we are back in Haigler now, and we owe it to the community, we owe it to organizations and the people who helped us to thank them and reach out with a helping hand in every way we can. And with that, I'm sure LaNeta has a more to your question, a few specific examples of what we've been doing here recently.
Thank you, Stan. LaNeta?
Well, 25 years we have been back, and we were fortunate from 30-year careers when we lived in Omaha, and in 1996, we decided to move back to Haigler to give back to our community. And everybody thought that we were really quite nuts to move back to rural Nebraska.
Yes.
They only knew us from our careers in Omaha and the international work that we had done, national and international work. And so they thought we were quite nuts to move back to Haigler. But we did, and many of them have come to Haigler, and they never ask us again what we do. Before, they wondered what we would do out here, and they never asked us that. So when we did return, we started helping the community really when we were in Omaha. But after we returned, we really said we are going to do things to keep this small rural community that gave us our start in life. We're going to give back. And so what we have done, you mentioned several of those things, but in 2007, we really, we were driving out in the country. I had a broken ankle, and it began with, wouldn't it be nice? And that's a phrase that Stan does not ever want to hear again, because we saw this old schoolhouse. It was still standing. It was 67 South, about 4 miles out of Haigler. And there were no reconditioned old one-room schoolhouses. And Stan's mother had gone to that schoolhouse. And my mother had taught in a small country school. And I said, wouldn't it be nice to renovate that schoolhouse and bring it into town? Well, that was the beginning. And it took us 4 years. We raised $50,000, and that schoolhouse was brought into Haigler and became the first museum as a one-room country schoolhouse museum. People kept giving things, and we ran out of room. Not only was it school for the country schoolhouse, but they kept giving things they wanted to be preserved. And so after that, then Stan and I had a building that when Stan had classic car collections, which we've mostly sold, and we decided to donate that building for the next museum, which we called the Haigler Cornerstone Museum, since Haigler is the cornerstone of Nebraska. And so then people kept donating things, and we now have had tractors and vehicles and all kinds of things donated that people have wanted to have preserved for the history of Nebraska. That followed with the Conoco station that we had owned as a building also, and the old jail, and so they have now become museums as well. Those museums continue, and then in 2013, is that about when it was? 2013, I think, our elementary school closed. And so the Board of Education, excuse me, the Board of Education asked us to submit a proposal to save the school including the 1936 gymnasium that is a historic gymnasium, and to save the schoolhouse and all of those school facilities for something for the community. They had bids from many places to buy, especially the historic gymnasium. Anyway, we submitted a proposal which was unanimously accepted by the Board of Education. And it became, we again raised money with the help of the Hansen Foundation out of Omaha. And we raised $50,000 for that project. And it has become the Cornerstone Center for Community Service, which really is one of our main event centers in Southwest Nebraska now. And so we have held events. We have a Sunshine Thrift Store, and it, along with all of the museums, is now owned by the Haigler Community Foundation. And so wouldn't it be nice, continues, for all of the projects that we're still involved in.
That's wonderful, LaNeta. Thank you. So that leads, I think, pretty well into where does the money that we're going to provide for you, the $2,500, what nonprofit organization have you chosen to receive that donation?
It will be our nonprofit Haigler Community Foundation. It has been in existence for several years, and is quite frankly a very poor foundation. So $2,500 is a biggie, and that's where it will go.
Wonderful, thank you.
It is a 401c 501c3 certified nonprofit.
Okay.
It started, Dave, because of the purchase of the Schoolhouse Museum, because we were asking people to donate once again for the community. And naturally, if they were going to give a large donation, they wanted a tax deduction. And so it was in 2014 that we purchased the schoolhouse facilities and made it into the Cornerstone Center for Community Service. And so the foundation is actually 7 years old. Board of directors and an advisory council. And Stan says it's very poor. Well, it's very poor this year because, with COVID, we have had to cancel every single event since March, and we have had to close the Cornerstone Center for Community Service. And therefore, we have relied upon our friends, our donors, our board members, a stabilization grant, COVID stabilization grant from the Nebraska, from our state, and then when
and our own checking account,
and AARP has been so good. When we received the challenge grant, we could continue doing restrooms. The handicapped restroom in the Cornerstone Museum, because we were wondering how we were going to continue on the projects this year. And so the Haigler Community Foundation is really the sole foundation for our community that people can receive tax deductions. And it's 7 years, and it helps to keep our community, our rural community, alive and well.
Thank you. It's our honor to be able to provide that for you. And in your own words, tell us why you believe it's so important to volunteer in your own community.
Well, we're somewhat philosophical, as I mentioned earlier, about this, and we're not in your face type of people. We believe, and this is what we've done for 25 years, you should try to set a good example. And if you do that, then you hope it will catch on. And it has worked pretty well. Others in our community, whether it's taking care of your yard, whether it's donating your time, your money, just set a good example and it will catch on. And that's what we're going to keep on doing. We'll keep on keeping on as long as we can.
See, we were, well, there were caretakers for our community before we returned. We were gone for almost 40 years after we left high school and we got our educations, our careers. And then we returned back home, and we've been back here for 25 years trying to give back. And we just finished designing, Dave, our tombstone, which will go up to the Haigler Cemetery. And you know, on a tombstone, there's the beginning date when you were born, and then there's your end date when you die. And there's a dash between those two dates. And we like to think of that dash as all of your years that you have tried to make a difference. And that's what we have tried to do. We came back to be caretakers. We have developed, hopefully, leadership qualities in others. We brought our expertise back home and are trying to develop that volunteer service feeling in others so that they can then, after we're gone, take over the caretaking responsibility to keep our small rural village alive and well. So it's that dash in between. And our dash is not done yet, even though we're nearing 80. We still have something to give back, but there are others that have developed those leadership skills that will continue on.
Great, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to meet you and hear all about the many good things you've done through your volunteer efforts. Nebraska and the community of Haigler are better off because of your passion and determination that's been shown through your volunteer work and through your ability to inspire others to volunteer. Thanks again. It's been wonderful meeting you, Stan and LaNeta.
Thanks so much, Dave. And
thank you.
The world needs more people like Suzan. Hooray for her.
Yes.
Thank you. In closing, I want to give our thanks to the Carlocks, to Suzan DeCamp, and to every person who volunteers their time in making positive difference in their community and in our society as a whole. Now remember, you can visit AARP Nebraska on Twitter and on Facebook for up-to-date information about our virtual events hosted by AARP and hosted by through local resources. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization. It has been working to promote the health and well-being of older Americans for more than 60 years. In the face of the COVID crisis, AARP is providing information and resources to help older people and those caring for them protect themselves from the virus and prevent its spread to others. Thank you, be safe, stay healthy, and remember to wash your hands. Adios.